What's up, fellas? So I'm out here on the LTD still. This is a EFI hose, 1/4 inch, that I had bought to connect. I have SN fuel lines on the LTD, so I was able to get them in without having to cut to make up for the extra length, but I had to run them into the engine compartment back there in the corner. So the kind of the knock against the SN fuel lines is that they kind of go across, you know, where the headers are. So I figured not a big deal. I got some of this DEI insulating sleeve, run that on there. But the when I first put it together, I had this stuff, which is just like O'Reilly's. It is the EFI line. And speaking of that, when I first got it together, I replaced the lines connecting the fuel rails, and I didn't know, and I didn't pay attention to it, but the pimple farmer behind the counter gave me standard fuel line, just 1/4 inch. So after I ran it a little bit, I mean, I hadn't put many miles on it, I pulled it in the yard one day and I was like, I can smell fuel. So I started looking, and the fuel lines, the rail, you know, the little rubber across the connecting the fuel lines, it was just seeping fuel out all over. So I had to pull them off, and then I found that it wasn't EFI or high pressure fuel line. One thing I noticed is that the ink they use on them is typically the I'll flip this over so you can see, but it does say fuel injection. Where does it say? Somewhere on here. But usually the ink on a high pressure fuel line is blue or green, and then the low pressure stuff, the ink on it is white. You know, the letters are white. So that's a good thing to look for, but always double check what the guys behind the counter are giving you, because they're not all there sometimes. Sometimes they're new, learning, whatever. So after that episode and doing the current upgrades here, I found this stuff, because when I put this stuff on, it went out to the barb fittings. I didn't like the way it went on. It kind of like pushed right on, and if I summoned the retard strength, I could pull it apart. So I put a hose clamp on it, but I just didn't like that, wasn't comfortable with it. So I bought this stuff here through Summit. It's a 10-foot roll. I think it was around $40 or so, and I got it to go on, but it just wasn't on all the way, and I wasn't comfortable with that. I didn't want to use hose clamps because that's supposed to ruin the integrity of the hose. So I tried all kinds of things. I was heating up the fuel line with my heat gun that I use for soldering or heat shrink, and I wasn't comfortable with that either, because, you know, I've read where it can ruin the structural integrity of the hose. So I started snooping around on the interwebs, and I found this thing. It's made by Aeroquip. They sell it, but they sell it for like $86. And I figured, you know what? All the fuel lines on my cars, I want to replace them with this stuff, just because, I mean, these cars are like going on 40 years old, you know, and that plastic that connects the fuel lines here at the front and the from the tank to the fuel rail in the back, that stuff's plastic and it's 40 years old. It's had gas going through it, and with the ethanol free crap we get, I was like, you know what, it's probably a good idea to replace all that stuff. So I had replaced this already in the back, and I'm going to be doing it on, you know, the other cars, red car, blue car, whatnot. So I thought, you know what, this might be a good investment if it pushes it on all the way, so it's up against the end of it. I said that'll, you know, make me have a little more comfortable that the connection is as good as I can make it. So I said, well, if Aeroquip sells this, so then I looked on Amazon, and they sell it for $56. I thought, well, you know, I ain't real keen on sending Bezos money to make another space dildo, but you know what, if I can save $30, Aeroquip still gets money, and then I, you know, save $30 I can spend on something else. So I guess Bezos can make another space dildo with a little bit of money he made off me, but I get to have my fuel lines connected right. So the way this works, you can kind of visualize, I don't have 3 hands to put this together, but this end clamps around the hose. This end goes into the fitting. You squeeze this and you push this that way and it pushes it in, and it works really good. I just used a little bit of silicone spray on the inside of the hose. I didn't have to heat it up. I didn't have to do anything. So it's like, that's the way I like to see it. I ain't got to worry about wrecking the hose trying to get it on there or trying to push it on. I didn't have to squeeze so hard with the trying to force it in. This worked really good. It's really kind of flimsy. I didn't think it was going to work. I really was skeptical. Thought I wasted 56 bucks, but it worked great. So I'll put a link to it if you too want to contribute to Jeff Bezos making another space dildo. It'll be in the comments, and that's the number of the hose. And also, one thing I've realized that I probably did not share before is this connector that's on, like, it's on that one in the back corner, and I think it's on the lines that go to the fuel pump or the fuel filter. If you use, instead of trying to pry these out and, you know, finagle it out of there, get one of these little disconnects and you push it up inside the hose and it unlocks it, and then you can reuse these things, because they are kind of hard to find. The ones you get at the parts store just really don't seem to work well, but you put that in there, pops right off, easy peasy. So that's it. I just got to wrap this up. And of course, the reason I put SN fuel rails on here to go with the fuel lines was that the SN fuel rails are bigger, so they will support more power. I don't think I was going to be anywhere close with the 331, because it's pretty mild. But you know, I was going to have a 347 at first, and the only issue with these is the coolant connector and the coolant sensor are right there. So in order to use the tool on this, I'm going to have to loosen the fuel rail, take the bolts out, raise it up so I can pop this end off, and then use a little tool, run the fuel line together, and then put it back on. That's the only drawback, kind of, but you know, in the big picture, really don't take that off very much. If I'd have used that tool the first time, I wouldn't be messing with it now. So just a little heads up for anybody considering doing that in the future. So that's it. The LTD's coming along. I've got that half over here, this half, the passenger side, all that dash is in, and I'm working on the console, kind of beautifying that right now, and get that in today along, and hook up the wideband, and then tomorrow put that fender liner in, take this fender off to make sure I got everything sealed up, and so I don't get any more leaks into the cabin, the engine or passenger compartment, and then go from there. We should be running, probably driving it to work the end of next week. All right, appreciate y'all. Later.